In today's lesson, you will learn how to evaluate an expression when given more than one number to substitute. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to substitute numbers for letters in a difficult expression. Some previous knowledge you will require today is you should be able to calculate substitutions when given the value of one letter. Okay, so the values we have been given this time is that A is equal to -2, B is equal to 5 and C is equal to 3, and we're asked to calculate. So just like last lesson, the first thing you do is substitute. So I'm going to replace A with -2 because that's its value. I'm going to replace B with 5 and C with 3. Now I just need to work this out. I'll take it step by step. -2 plus 5 first gives me a +3. And I've still got to add on the 3 at the end. 3 plus 3 gives me 6, so my final answer is 6 for part A. In part B, I begin by substituting, so I'm going to do 3 bracket B is 5, replacing B with a 5, plus 2 bracket C is 3, replacing C with a 3. Now I need to remember what this means. 3B means 3 times B, and 2C means 2 times C. So I'm multiplying here. BODMAS tells me that I need to multiply before I add, so I'm going to deal with the 3 times 5 and the 2 times 3 before I add those numbers together. So 3 times 5 gives me 15, the plus stays in the middle, and 2 times 3 gives me 6. Finally, I can add those two numbers together. 15 plus 6 gives me 21. In part C, again, a little bit more tricky, but I'm just beginning by substituting. In place of A, I'm going to put -2. Take away, B is 5 and C is 3. BODMAS tells me I must do that multiplication at the start first. I have a positive times a negative. 4 times -2 will give me a -8, and I've still got to subtract 5 and then add 3. Taking it step by step, -8 take away a further 5 will give me -13, and I've still got to add 3 to that. -13 plus 3 will give me -10. In part D, begin by substituting 2 bracket -2 plus 2 bracket B is 5 minus 3 bracket C is 3. Okay, begin by doing all of my multiplications. On the first one, I've got a positive times a negative, which is going to give me -4, plus 2 times 5 is 10, minus 3 times 3 is 9. I'll begin by doing -4 plus 10, which is going to give me +6, and I've still got to take 9 away from that. 6 take away 9 gives me -3 as my final answer. Okay, in example 2, substitute B and C. So B is 5 and C is 3. Remember, this means B times C, so we are multiplying these numbers together. 5 times 3 gives me 15. In part B, we need to substitute all 3 numbers this time. So that's -2 times 5 times 3. Again, just take it step by step. We'll do the -2 times 5 first. -2 times 5 gives me -10, and I've still got to times that by the 3. -10 times 3 gives me -30 as my final answer. In part C, substituting in B as 5 and C as 3, and this time we've got to add 2 to it. BODMAS says we do our multiplication first. 5 times 3 is 15, and I've still got to add 2. 15 plus 2 gives me 17. In part D, substituting A as -2 and B as 5, we've got to do 3 times -2 times 5. So we'll just start by doing the 3 times -2. Positive times a negative will give me a negative answer. 3 times 2 is 6. So now I've got to do -6 times the 5 at the end. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, example 3, begin by substituting. So A is -2 minus 2 times B is 5 and C is 3. So begin by doing our multiplication here. 4 times negative 2, positive times a negative is a negative, 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract stays in the middle, we'll deal with that later. 2 times 5 is 10, and we've still got to multiply that 10 by the 3 on the end. So we've still got a little bit of multiplication to do, we can't do the subtraction until we've done that. 10 times 3 gives me 30. So now finally I've got to do negative 8, take away a further 30, which is going to give me negative 38. In part B, substitute first. 10 minus A is negative 2, B is 5 and C is 3. Again, we've got to begin with our multiplication. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, and we've still got to multiply that by the 3 on the end. So that's 10, take away negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. Now remember the double negative rule, if you're subtracting a negative, that is the same as adding. So this becomes 10 plus 30, which gives me a final answer of 40.